The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered by Chaplain Kibben.
Would you pray with me? Dear God, it seems this evening we may be at last standing at the threshold of a new Congress. I'm not done yet. Should we, with your blessing, find our way through the doorway this night, cause us to consider carefully what we have learned on the way. Turning to you each day, we asked for your help in our deliberations, and you answered us. But your answer was to allow us to suffer the anxiety, uncertainty, and aggravation that follows when we choose to allow healthy debate to devolve into contentious and unproductive argument. And yet, in your mercy, you transformed this foray into discord into an opportunity to learn to find common ground with unlikely partners. Would that this be a habit we continue. Remind us that while the spirit of dispute can be traced to our government's earliest days, we have served this country best when we sought to reconcile our differences with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. May we be more willing to wield these fruits of your spirit in our future discourse with one another. We pray your continued mercy on us. May your anger with us last but a moment, and your favor a lifetime. And for all that we endure this night, allow joy to come in the morning. In the hope found in your name we pray. Amen.
The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. Representatives-elect are invited to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Madam Clerk, I'm honored to rise tonight to nominate my good friend, the gentleman from California, Kevin McCarthy, to serve as Speaker of the House.
The gentleman will suspend. The gentleman will suspend. The question recurs upon the election of a speaker, and the tellers will please come forward and take their seats.
That was right.
Once they're seated, you can just say the gentleman's recognized on his nomination.
Here, give them sheets. These are all their sheets. Here you go. Miss Lane. Miss Lane. Miss Lane.
The gentleman is recognized for his nomination.
Madam Clerk, I am honored to rise tonight to nominate my good friend, the gentleman from California, Kevin McCarthy, to serve as Speaker of this House. Madam Clerk, it's been a long week, and a lot of attention's been placed upon us here in the House. But then again, I state that to the most famous woman in Washington this week. It was a better joke as written, actually, than delivered. But I want to start by thanking the men and women who make this House run. From the janitorial staff, to the parliamentarians, to the doorkeepers, to the Sergeant of Arms, to the Capitol Police officers, to the men and women that make this institution run, we thank you. And at this day, and a source of charity, we'd even thank the Capitol Press Corps for sitting on floors. That, too, is actually funnier on the paper than how delivered. I don't know why you asked me to do this, Kevin. Look, the President has called this process an embarrassment. Talking heads have labeled this chaos and a mess, and some would call it shambolic even. But it's called democracy. And this is a hallmark of a free society where every voice and every vote counts. We know it's messy. We know it's messy. But open and transparent debate is what sets us apart from authoritarian regimes. In order to outcompete our adversaries, we must adhere to the principles that make our nation, this nation, our constitutional republic, great. And that starts with a free and open exchange of ideas. And that's exactly what we've done this week. To some, it may have felt like Congress was on hold. But the alternative, a government that assembles with no input from the representatives elected by the people, is a far worse alternative. And these constitutional principles we're adhering to in this complicated process of setting up the House. Over these last few days, Kevin McCarthy has allowed this process to work among House Republicans. and he's empowered members to come together to find consensus on behalf of conservative policy and a greater involvement of all voices throughout our conference. We've all played a part. We have all played a part. Whether it's the dean or members who've just been waiting for 4 days and voting loyally. It's Kevin's leadership style, a leadership style that's been lacking in this institution for too long. It's the same style Kevin employed with each of us as we developed our policy proposal, A Commitment to America, a plan that works to secure our border and stop the flow of fentanyl into our communities, to give Chairman Comer and Chairman Jordan the tools they need to hold the Biden administration accountable for their failures, and to take China on and end the president's COVID emergency powers that have been abused far too many times. To finally reopen the People's House, empower our standing committees, and get people back to regular order here on the House floor. And countless other conservative solutions that are very powerful and good for constituents in Bakersville or Lincolnton, North Carolina. Madam Clerk, I'm one of the few members left on the Republican side who's had the pleasure of serving with Kevin for the entirety of his tenure in the House. In those years, I've worked closely with Kevin in a variety of different capacities. And, well, he's a good friend. But serving with him in these capacities has meant that I've heard every one of his stories. And the stories of Kevin O's Deli I've heard way too many times. I don't know if you've heard that he won the lottery as well. Those stories, I could recount them chapter and verse. He's a dear friend. But all of you have heard these stories too. And it's also, by my seat, able to watch him on a front row seat as he's grown as a leader. And especially this week, how he's grown as a leader. He knows more about members than they know about themselves. If your spouse is sick, he may send flowers or fruit before I did, on that story. But he cares so much about members, not for politics, but because he cares about people. He's unflinchingly optimistic. The glass is always half full. That's been a hell of a trait, especially this week. He's relentless. The man does not quit. And it was Kevin that led Republicans back to the majority in this House, the only Republican institution in Washington this day. And Kevin has led us through these challenges the last few days. And Kevin is the right person to lead us over the coming 2 years. And that's why, at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy as the next Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House.
is recognized.
House Democrats are united behind the son of a social worker and substance abuse counselor, a leader who is deeply involved in his community and a tireless advocate for the least, the lost, and the left behind. He is a voice for the people. And Madam Clerk, this is the people's house. Two years ago today, duly elected members of this body gathered here to certify the results of a free and fair election. And in doing so, we participated in a tradition that makes our democracy a marvel and the envy of the world, a peaceful transfer of power. But this body is more than a ceremonial chamber, Madam Clerk. This is a workplace where hundreds of men and women endure long, difficult hours before they punch out and go home to their families. Where good people come to work each day and maybe steal a quiet moment to themselves to look up at the ceiling or to look at the paintings, the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and to thank God for the blessings of liberty. Because this place is so much more than a chamber or even a workplace. It is, in Lincoln's words, a sign we intend the Union shall go on. And I'm not just talking about the members either, Madam Clerk. I'm talking about you and your staff, the custodial staff, the floor staff, the institutional staff, our congressional staff, the Sergeant at Arms, our beloved chaplain, and the Capitol Police. I'm talking about the people who make this house work, the people who Hakeem Jeffries will never take for granted. Two years ago, Madam Clerk, we witnessed this place under siege by a violent mob who desecrated this building and the other chamber. But this feels a little familiar. Today we adjourned amidst utter confusion, only this time we're returning in the dark of night, not to cast a vote to bring this country together and to do our jobs, but one that will set the path toward division and default. So if we are forced to be here this evening because of the chaos and crisis on the other side, it's only fair to point out, Madam Clerk, that the same individuals who fanned the flames of January 6th, who told their followers and their followers' followers that they needed to fight back, and who challenged the swearing in of members based on a bogus claim of fake electors, may well be in charge of the People's House if they can ever agree on who can lead them.
Will the House be in order?
That's why House Democrats stand united behind Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem is the only candidate in this race for Speaker who will defend this democracy. He is the only candidate in this race willing to call out the lie that the election was stolen. And he's the only candidate in this race who thinks that everyone involved on January 6th ought to be held accountable regardless of the positions they hold in power. For justice and truth, and in memory of the lives lost on January 6th, I nominate Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
Adams. Jeffries. Aderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Allen.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amaday. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Berrigan. Jeffries. Dean of Florida. McCarthy. Beatty. Jeffries. Bent. McCarthy. Farah. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Byer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Jordan. Villarapas. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. McCarthy. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Present. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Rakeen. McCarthy. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. Bouchon.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Baczynski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek. McCarthy. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Carson.
Hakeem Zickel Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Georgia.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez DeReamer. McCarthy. Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Ciscovani.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. McCarthy. Clyburn. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. McCarthy. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Correa.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Costa.
Gentleman from New York, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Biggs. Crawford.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Crenshaw.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz.
Texas's 15th Congressional District stands with Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Delfine. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. McCarthy. Duarte.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Elsie.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshu. Jeffries. Espaillat.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Estes.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezell.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Fallon.
The 4th District of Texas votes for Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Finstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy. Finstad.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Fishbach.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates. Gates. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Good of Virginia. Jordan. Gooden of Texas. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Gosar. Gottheimer.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. Graves of Louisiana. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee.
Gentleman from Bakersfield, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy.
Hageman. McCarthy. Harder of California. Harder of California. Harris. Harris. McCarthy. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Hinson. McCarthy. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Issa. Issa. McCarthy. Ivey. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Jackson Lee.
Day, January 6th, family fallen officers. For his tenacity and
Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kemlogar Dove. Jeffries. Capter. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Cotto.
Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLota. McCarthy. LaMalfa.
Northern California for Kevin Sullivan McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lamborn.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Latta.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. LaTurner.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lawler.
The Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lucas.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Luetkemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. McCarthy. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCollum. Jeffries. McCormick.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Menendez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Mean.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Muser.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Mfume.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. McCarthy. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Molinaro.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Molinar.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. DeGoose. Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. McCarthy. Nunn of Iowa.
Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Ogles.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquarel.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Payne.
Mr. Jeffries.
Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. McCarthy. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Pocan.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Porter.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Raskin.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Rosendale.
Andy Biggs.
Biggs. Ross. Jeffries. Bowser. McCarthy. Roy.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Schneider. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. David Scott. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. McCarthy. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. McCarthy. Stansberry. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stauber. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland. Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew.
Mr. Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Vargas.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Vasquez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. VC.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg.
Mr. McCarthy.
McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yacom. McCarthy. Zinke. McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Buck. McCarthy. Gates. Present. Gosar. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Harder of California. Jeffries. David Scott. Jeffries.
Can we get the tally? Can- The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 432, of which the Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 216. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 2. The Honorable Andy Biggs of the state of Arizona has received 2. No member-elect having received a majority of the votes cast, a speaker has not been elected.
Gentleman from North Carolina. Will the gentleman repeat his motion?
Will the gentleman repeat his motion?
I move the House do now adjourn until noon Monday.
Questions on the
The
motion?
question is on the motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say. The ayes have it.
All those in favor say
All those in favor say
aye.
aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Ask for the yeas and nays. Madam Clerk, ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. members voted? Does any member wish to change a vote?
Susan's got to get in there.
Off aye, on no for Mr. Gates, Maliotakis, Boebert, Roy, Style, McCarthy, Burchett, Latta, Stauber, Lawler, McLean, Crane, Biggs, Good, Huizenga, Rosendale, Griffith, Kane of New Jersey, Turner, Emmer, Lunar, Duncan, Van Drew, Klein, Nunn of Iowa, Jimenez, Van Dyne, Carl, Davidson, Strong, Tenney, Bilirakis, Van Orden, Winstrup, Burgess, Wagner, Wahlberg, Johnson of South Dakota, Smirker, Mast, Scalise, Molinaro, Kamek, Guthrie, Fleischman, Rogers of Kentucky, Murphy, Rushenthaler, Langworthy, Joyce of Ohio, Kiley, Fallon, LaMalfa, Graves of Missouri, Bentz, C. Scott Franklin, Miller Meeks, Bice, Miller of Ohio, Rogers of Washington, Obernolte, D'Esposito, and Fitzpatrick. Off no on aye for Ms. Maliotakis.
She had two cards.
Maliotakis was off aye, on no.
On this vote, the yeas are 155, the nays are 279. The motion is not adopted. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker of the House. Madam Clerk, the eyes of the world, the eyes of America are on this body right now. What America needs, what this body needs, is a lot less talk and a lot more action. And at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy as the next Speaker of the House of the 118th Congress.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Minnesota rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to say, wow. And Madam Clerk, I rise to place into nomination for election to the position of Speaker of the House of Representatives the esteemed and wonderful leader of House Democrats, Mr. Hakeem Jeffries of New York.
The gentleman is recognized.
Friends, our nation's first president, unanimously elected by the Electoral College in 1789, keeps watch over us every single day right here in this chamber. And in his inaugural address to our new nation, he spoke of, and I quote, a form of government for the security of our union and the advancement of our happiness. Security of our union and advancement of our happiness. But 234 years later, and after 14 rounds of balloting and a ridiculous war for personal power across the aisle, we, the people, still find ourselves without a constituted government, our security neglected, and the advancement of anything impossible. And happiness? Suffice to say, Americans are unhappy by the nonsense and the dysfunction playing out on this floor, particularly those who need us the most, who rely on our offices, and I mean every single one of our offices, for services and support. Not to mention the unhappy GOP and Democratic ranking members and chairs of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, our Armed Services Committee, and the Intel Committees, who say that the risk to our safety and security grows with each passing hour. So, my friends, this is not just unhappiness, this is dangerous. However, the 212 unified members of the House Democratic Caucus have a very effective solution for this problem. We call him Hakeem Jeffries. And in the spirit of friendliness and hopefulness, we extend a warm invitation to just 6 of you across the aisle to join us. Join us. And let's end this nonsense, constitute this Congress, and elect him Speaker of the House. A man who is ready to work with everyone in this Congress and throughout our country to place people over politics and solve our country's problems. A man of competency, of decency, and integrity, a man of courage, of honor, and resolve, a man who listens better than anyone I have ever known in my life, a man of innovation and cooperation, and yes, indeed, alliteration. 14,421 Americans have served in the United States Congress since George Washington's inaugural address 234 years ago. One of the very finest of those Americans is Hakeem Jeffries of the great state of New York, and it is the honor of a lifetime to place his name into nomination for Speaker of the House.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford.
I'll take Kevin McCarthy for the win, please.
McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Berrigan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Byer.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Bice.
For the 15th and God willing final time, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Biggs. Present. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. McCarthy. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Present. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Bowman.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Rakeen. McCarthy. Brown.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Bouchon. McCarthy. Bazinski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Caraveo.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carbajal.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Cardenas.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carey.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Carl.
McCarthy on the 15th.
McCarthy. Carson.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Georgia.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Texas.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Cartwright.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Kassar.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Case.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Caston.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Chavez de Reamer. McCarthy. Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Cicilline.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Ciscobani.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. McCarthy. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. McCarthy. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole, McCarthy, Collins, McCarthy, Comer, McCarthy, Connolly, Jeffries, Correa, Jeffries, Costa, Jeffries, Courtney, Jeffries, Craig, Jeffries, Crane, present. Crawford, McCarthy, Crenshaw, McCarthy, Crockett, Jeffries, Crow, Jeffries, Cuellar, Jeffries, Curtis, McCarthy, Davids of Kansas,
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries, Davidson, McCarthy, Davis of Illinois, Jeffries, Davis of North Carolina, Jeffries, Dean of Pennsylvania, Jeffries, DeGette, Jeffries, Dela Cruz, McCarthy, DeLauro, Jeffries, Del Bene, Jeffries, DeLuzio, Jeffries, Dusaunier, Jeffries, Desjardins, McCarthy, D'Esposito, McCarthy, Diaz-Balart, McCarthy, Dingle, Jeffries, Doggett, Jeffries, Donalds, McCarthy, Duarte, McCarthy, Duncan, McCarthy, Dunn of Florida, McCarthy, Edwards, McCarthy, Elsie, McCarthy, Emmer, McCarthy, Escobar, Jeffries, Eshu, Jeffries, Espaillat, Jeffries, Estes, McCarthy, Evans, Jeffries, Ezell, McCarthy, Fallon,
Fourth District of Texas, 15 times over, vote for Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy, Finstra, McCarthy, Ferguson, McCarthy, Finstad, McCarthy, Fischbach,
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy, Fitzgerald, McCarthy, Fitzpatrick, McCarthy, Fleischman, McCarthy, Fletcher, Jeffries, Flood, McCarthy, Foster, Jeffries, Fushi, Jeffries, Fox, McCarthy, Lois Frankel, Jeffries, C. Scott Franklin, McCarthy, Frost, Jeffries, Fry, McCarthy, Fulcher, McCarthy, Gates, present. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Good of Virginia. Present. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. McCarthy. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy. Hageman. McCarthy. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. McCarthy. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. McCarthy. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizenga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Issa. McCarthy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Jackson Lee.
For the Americans that are desperate in need of leadership, I'm proud to vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Camlogger Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Khanna. Jeffries. Higgins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLorda. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. LaTurner.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lawler.
On behalf of the great state of New York, which helped deliver this Republican majority, I'm proud to cast my vote for the next speaker, the Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk.
Georgia's 11th congressional district goes to Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. McCarthy. Latrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Ming.
On behalf of the state of New York, very soon will deliver Speaker.
Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. McCarthy. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks.
15 to win goes to Hello,
McCarthy. Mills.
Let's get to work.
McCarthy. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. The Goose. Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. McCarthy. Nunn of Iowa.
Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles. McCarthy. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquale. Jeffries. Payne. Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. McCarthy. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose. McCarthy. Rosendale. Rosendale. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. McCarthy. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Snyder. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. McCarthy. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. Present. Sparts. McCarthy. Stansbury. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stallberg. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Stile. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland. Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew.
On behalf of the Southern New Jersey 2nd Congressional District, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Vargas. Jeffries. Vasquez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. VC.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg.
Mr. McCarthy.
McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York.
Mr. McCarthy.
McCarthy. Williams of Texas.
Deputy McCarthy.
McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yacom. McCarthy. Zinke.
The next Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Kevin.
So you need to say down, and then we need to go back.
McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Rosendale.
Present.
Present.
Right.